Welcome back to this cool show that we do where we have no followers, we like to vent about D&D anyway. I have with us God himself, the one who made this world, and today we're going to talk about Galatea, but I love to call it Galatea because everyone in our party is super gay.
Hi, it's me, God. I'm going to start with where my players started the campaign, which is this little fancy country. Well, I wouldn't say little, but Brunel, right here. You're going to get different terrain here. You're going to get different terrain here. And you're going to get different terrain here. In the north here, where it borders this like lovely white country here, it's obviously cold because that's north. And when you think north, you think cold, as you would. How I think of it is like it's open tundra, there is a lot of open space, and, well, there's not a lot of civilization up there. And that's actually where the party started. But we're not going to get into that right now. If everyone knows about runoff water, that all goes into this little bowl region right here, which is where like the plains are, which is where most of the country's population lives. Besides here, which is where the capital is located. And fun fact about the capital, it's very densely populated and very heavily guarded. You might be asking, why is it a bad idea to attack this place? Well, glad you asked. This place is very militaristic, and militaristic means they're very suspicious of people.
Have you ever wanted to go to somewhere far away and unique? Well, this is not the place for you because they will literally murder you for taking out your camera.
If you pose any kind of threat to the people here, they will use it as some kind of excuse to get you arrested and or killed. Their end goal is to get as much land as possible. In their history, they once controlled most of this continent. So Brunel, very fun for me, not fun for people who live there because it's obviously not a fun place to be because there's a lot of enemies and people trying to kill you all the time. But, you know, it's definitely got a lot of global politics going on and a lot of control in what happens in global politics. Afterwards, the party ended up going north and they went to this fun place that I really like called Albanir. And Albanir is literally just a tundra. The thing is with Albanir is it is extremely magical because that's where the goddess of magic herself lives. Around this region here is this country's capital called Glacier's End. There's a legend that Albanir has, which is called the Frosted Crown, which is like this huge magical like a substance object. No one really knows what it is. That's just the name they gave it because Albanir, you see, is on the top of the world, literally. And they kind of see themselves as like, oh, we're the crown on the top of the world. We don't need anyone else because we're perfectly safe up here because no one wants to mess with us. They also take a lot of pride in their foliage? I don't know. Like something around their foliage. Because they have something called frost flowers here, which glow an iridescent blue color. And they're also imbued with magic. If you ingest a flower, it has the same properties as wild magic. However, if you prepare it in a medicinal way or in some kind of tea, you can manipulate its magical power to your liking, basically. And it's different for every person. So if one person were to, like, you know, procure it in a certain way, their magical properties would be different because it's a different person. These flowers can only be grown in Albanir because once they get outside of like colder regions, they start to wilt, and once it gets too warm, they just completely die and they lose almost all of their magical properties. Now, if you go to the west, they have a western port there that literally sits on an ice cap. It's not a safe place to be because it's, you know, it's constantly moving around. Albanir doesn't get a lot of visitors, so they're not really too worried about it. Next, we're going to move down to Claire, which the party has not visited yet, but they have had hints about. Because Claire is kind of in a weird spot where it's in between two major players in the west, Parthia and Brunel. We're going to get to Parthia later, but Claire is interesting because it is often classified as the Riverlands. Another thing that Claire has is the natural border with Brunel here, which is the mountain range. Water runs down, so the water's going to run down this way, and, well, Claire is definitely susceptible to flooding. Claire's capital is located here, and it is literally called the River Fort. if you want passage into like Clare, you will most likely be going through here. So how I see Parthia is like, imagine the east coast of the United States, but like everything below North Carolina, and that's what you're gonna get. Currently, the players are in this place called the Delta Narrows, located there. And the Delta Narrows is a very interesting part of Parthia because, well, it's one of the many city-states in Parthia. So Parthia is organized under city-states. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one here. They're everywhere. Most of them are coastal, except for this one, and, well, that one. But that's besides the point. The Delta Narrows is very interesting because it takes heavy pride on its oligarchical structure. The nobility has a lot of say in what goes on in the government policies of the city, which is not fair to the peasants, which take up 90% of the population. Parthia, in terms of terrain, is not very mountainous. It's not very wet. It's more just like rolling hills, and then it flattens out towards the coast, and that's about it. The rest of the places they have not visited yet, so that's why we're saving them for later.
This is certainly a very interesting map we're looking at, and like the reason the colors are the way that they are is because we very vaguely tried to draw out what the climate is like in these different areas.
Mm-hmm.
What makes the West unique from the East. I think that's a very interesting thing for you to talk about.
So what makes the West very different from the East is that, well, the West takes a lot of inspiration from like Western Europe, Western expansion, and even in their like clothing and culture. Like Brunel is heavily based off of like the terrain of northern Scotland and Siberia, and Albanir is more or less based on Greenland, where it's just most of it is just an ice cap. No one really knows how big it is. While I did mention that Parthia is based off of like the western or the eastern United States, Clare is just kind of like there. I don't know. Like, it didn't have too much basis. However, it kind of built around itself in terms of like where it landed in between those two. But in terms of culture, the West definitely takes a lot of heavy inspiration from the Western Europe, while the East is, well, Eastern, like Eastern Asia, like China, Japan, Korea, all of those fun things. So that's why they're very different.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to ask, what party members are from where?
This member, who goes by Micah, is from this country right here, Tharage, which is, well, quite literally a desert. But there's a lot more going on there, and we're going to talk about that in a different episode because, well, oh boy. There's a lot going on there.
It sure be dry. It sure be sandy. It sure be far away from where we are.
Most of our party is actually from the east. So our Tabaxi friend, Ocean, is from Ecclesia, which is, well, in the east. And it can also get very warm there, but not nearly as bad as Tharage, because Tharage is, well, a desert. Ecclesia has lots of canyons and mountains and stuff, but we're not going to get into that. But primarily, what you should know is Ecclesia has a high percentage of Tabaxi living there. Our party member Strauss, who is a water Genasi, grew up in Detemeros. And fun fact about Detemeros, it is like the main hub of the east, basically, where it's where most people go if they want to get to the east. Who's next? Oh, our friend Newt, also from the east, but he hails from Rosagra, which is a country southeast of Detemeros, obviously, because southeast. And it was initially part of Detemeros, but is now not. Rosagra, its main percentage of its people are elves. And our friend Newt is an elf. Well, he's actually a dark elf, so fun fact. So Zephyr/Alex, which is one of our players' two characters, because he decided to switch out, is from Brunel, specifically the capital, where they grew up because they're a noble house. And, well, people in Brunel, they tend to be very, wow, we're strong, we're warmongers, that's what we live by. And they very well are. They're very fierce fighters, they're very suspicious of behavior. I mean, I would say Zephyr more than Alex at this point, but that is where they are from, and they've lived that way their entire lives. And the only reason why they left is because they were supposedly sent on a mission, but never returned back at the specified date.
Mm.
So that is a big no-no. Ivan, our giant, is from the mountain range, specifically in this region where the giants reside. And the giants are an ancient civilization in Brunel. And the Brunelians do not like that. They do not like that the giants live on their land, so they decided, we're going to get rid of them. What's surprising is they actually got rid of most of them because they had the power in numbers. In Ivan's case, he had to flee his home. What I would like to portray to people out there is that, oh, you're going to know what the party knows, and we're going to keep it that way.
Ooh.
Yes. So,
like and subscribe and all that other obligatory things I'm supposed to say, and we'll catch y'all some other time with some more videos.
yes, please
Hopefully.
subscribe. Please do it. God said so.
God said so.